looks afar off. And they had such hate for him and such envy for him that they wanted to kill him. They had that much envy. You can imagine when they were with each other, they probably talked about him. They probably made plans of what they were going to do. And when they saw him, they even more so wanted to carry out their plans. They talked about it. Hated him, envied him, talked a little bit more about him. And that's what hatred does. It grows. And the pastor has said this previously, says this actually a lot. Whatever you feed will grow. And they constantly fed that hatred. They constantly fed that envy. Those are two very evil things. And when you continually talk about it, think about it, talk about it some more, it grows. And that's exactly what happened. It grew against their little brother, their flesh and blood. And for what? They envied him, they hated him because he had favor. They envied him, they hated him because the Father showed him preferential treatment. The Father gave him the tunic of many colors. The Father loved him. And they hated him and envied him more because of that. And sometimes just because he was Joseph, because God favored him. And in the 19th verse, then they came to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. So not only they talk about him, now they're starting to mock him. They're starting to say things to him. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will come of his dreams. So they wanted to get in the way of what God has showed him. They think that by doing this, by killing him, by throwing him into a pit, is going to cut him off. Is going to cut those dreams off. Is going to stop for what they envy that they don't have. Can we not see that in this life today? We get such these brothers that hated him, these brothers that envied him so much, and that devised plans against him. We see that in life today. We see how other people envy. We see the other people, how there's so much hate in this world. We see how plans are devised to carry out evil. And this is so parallel to this world today, that there's so many plans out there just made to be evil. And the more we talk about it, the more we plan, the more we say, the more actions we have. All of that just leads up to the ultimately evil and the ultimate destruction. And they wanted nothing but destruction for Joseph. They wanted to stop for what they couldn't have. Sometimes people just want to stop what you have just because they can't have it. And that seems very cruel, and that seems very even some crazy sometimes. But that's how it is. And Joseph he was just living his life. He was a younger brother, he had older brothers, and he was living his life with his father that cared for him. He was just living his life, telling what God has shown him and what God has for him. And in the 21st verse, let's go just a little bit further. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. Okay, so the oldest brother was trying to save him, saying, okay, well, let's not kill him, but we're going to put him in this pit. And then later, Reuben wanted to come back and bring him out of that. So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph as a tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And after that, they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. Let's stop there, because this is such an amazing part of the scripture, that the brothers hated him so much that they wanted to not only destroy everything that he had, and that the dreams, and they wanted just everything to just stop from their little brother, from what he was saying and what he was showing them. So they devised a plan to get rid of him. They devised a plan to silence him. And they didn't kill him. The oldest brother said, no, let's not kill him, but let's just put him in this pit. And have you ever been put in a pit? Have you ever been put in a place that's this isolated, that feels like you can't go anywhere? And it feels unfair. It feels like you shouldn't be there. I can imagine that that's what Joseph was feeling at the time. That I'm just saying what God has shown me. And then they're put in this he's put in this place there's nothing there. There's no food, no water, nothing. He's just put in a big hole. And they felt that they would be able to silence him. That he wouldn't be able to do anything now. He can't talk. He can't say what God has showed him. And this is such a huge conspiracy. And I think about it, there's so many conspiracies out there now. Again, this is so parallel to what real life is now. Joseph was a victim. He was a victim of this conspiracy. He's done what he was told to do. He was to watch over the sheep. He did what he was supposed to do, and he saw his brothers doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, so he let his father know. At that point, he became his father's favorite by many different things. And they just didn't like that. They didn't even try to understand it. He was favored by having these amazing dreams, in which they did not have. Now, when we look at the other side and the brothers, they were plotting against him. There was 10 of them against one little brother. These were his relatives, his brothers, his flesh and blood, that were against him. And that, I think that just leads on, is a little bit stronger. When these are people that you know, these people that are close to you. These are brothers. And it was kind of 10 evil people against one good person. And we know that the wickedness and would never go unpunished in the eyes of God. At first it was even the brothers against the father, because they were mad because of the special attention that Joseph was getting. So not only against them, but it was against the father as well. And they were just waiting for this opportunity. They were waiting for the time. They were waiting for their plan to be able to be carried out. And that's exactly what happened when they continued to plot against him, when they put them in the pit. So now we see a company of the Ishmaelites coming. In the 27th verse, so Judah said to his brothers, so here they're continually plotting, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us send him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. So now they're talking about, okay, well, let's not kill him. Well, let's see what we can do with him. And his brothers listened, so they're all conspiring against Joseph. Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. That's a pretty significant conspiracy. They didn't kill him, but they did remove him. They took him out of the pit that they put him in, and they sold him. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes, and he returned to his brothers and said, the lad is no more, and I, where shall I go? So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of goats, and dripped the tunic with blood. And they brought it to their father and said, we have found this. Do you know where it is your son's, whether it's your son's tunic or not? And he recognized it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his waist and mourned for his son for many days. You know, the plan was still being carried out. It continues, you know, the conspiracy, the plan, the evil doing was still being carried out. Not only did they take him and put him in a pit. And you can imagine what or maybe we can't, of what Joseph is actually thinking at the time, what he's going through. But I can imagine that here he is, he has trust in his brothers, in his flesh and blood, and is going to talk to them. And when he comes across his brothers, the brothers have evil in their sight. They have harm in their sight. And then they cast him into a pit. And again, these are our older brothers that he's trusted, that he's been with his entire life. And then it goes one step further. Can you imagine just, okay, now, well, we're not going to kill you, but we're going to sell you. So they're selling him as a slave. So they're thinking that they're moving him away from them, so they don't have to be around the favor that Joseph is getting, the amazing dreams that he's getting. We don't have to hear that anymore. So he'll just be gone. And this happens in our lives, that we just want to remove what we see as good because it's not happening to us. And that's what's happening with them. They just don't like it. How many times do we just not like things and want to destroy it? We see it every day. Just because of the hatred that's in hearts of people. And for no other reason but just to hate. When something good happens to something that you hate, it's even worse. And they said, just remove it altogether. And we won't even have to deal with that anymore. That if we just take it away, we don't have to see it. We don't have to hear about it. Just take it away. And that's what they thought they were doing. That they thought that we could just take this away and it'll be gone forever.